studio, we have someone who deals with shipping and thereby moving products all over the world. Her company is the Shipping Emporium, and her name is Jane Barnett. Hello, Jane.
Hi, Basil. How are you?
Good, how about you?
Good.
Okay, very good. So tell us about your company and what you do.
Shipping Emporium?
Yes.
My business is focused on, as a licensed transportation broker and freight forwarder, we are focused on helping businesses who need to move goods that are generally about 100 pounds or more,
Okay.
Internationally or domestic. And they're really just looking to find out what is the best service that you can offer for the money. Many of my customers are smaller businesses. Some of them may have already been involved in heavy domestic and or import or export before.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are new. The main thing that they have in common is that they don't ship every day.
Okay.
And so they're looking for the very best service, customer service, and the very best pricing as well.
Okay. So is the guy who does not ship every day, that's the one you help?
Yes. And I mainly focus on businesses and the movement of commercial goods as a licensed freight arranger. That means that I'm not a carrier directly, but that I'm an indirect carrier and I have access to networks for ocean freight, air freight through airlines or through integrated carriers, as well as through domestic transportation, through less than truckload, and even some truckload options. I have industry contacts all over the United States, and most of my customers are based in the United States and need to ship domestically and or internationally.
Well, because when you say ocean, so that means I gotta go somewhere.
Right. Right. The ocean means that you can pretty easily find businesses that are involved in both import and domestic freight. And
Okay.
many
Okay,
who are
right.
also
Okay.
could be involved in export. It's
Okay.
I call it a circle. You know? So.
Okay, so if somebody is shipping, this is my question. If they're shipping daily, that's a challenge for you?
If they're shipping daily, a business can still come to Shipping Emporium for assistance, but they may not find a better rate.
Okay.
They may find the same pricing or slightly better, but the sweet spot is really that I can offer better savings, better value for shipping for businesses that don't ship every day. Shipping services, whether it's through land, transportation carriers, I work with over 40 domestic carriers. Okay, so I work with nearly everyone, as well as some independent carriers. The rates will vary according to which zip code you're going to and from, and how large of a shipment is it? How many pallets or crates are packed? Because I have so much experience, I know where the trouble spots are. If you have more than 6 crates or pallets, or if you get over 5,000-10,000 pounds, then we need to start talking to make sure that this is going to be the most cost-effective option, and maybe you need your own dedicated truck. My customers mainly don't want to be surprised by a bill. I fully disclose everything to them about all the charges that they're going to occur, as well as all the potential charges, and I also rely on my customers to provide me with accurate data as far as the weight and dimensions of their shipments. For air transportation, which could be for domestic or for international, I know it's complicated. We offer those options.
Okay. Very good. You recently changed in the organization of the way you work with your company. What changed?
I have more options for businesses who are going to Latin America. I have a really strong freight partner in Miami. I have others in Dulles and Baltimore, of course, being that we're located in DC, New York, California, and Texas. My freight contact in California is looking especially to provide really good rates on trucks that are headed back to the East Coast. So I would especially want to hear from businesses that are shipping heavy freight from Southern California to the East Coast right now, if they're shipping 500 pounds or more.
Okay.
Because I can most likely save them rates based on that combined freight consolidation. It's generally how we can get you better rates.
And you said a minute ago there's over 40 carriers in the country?
Yes. Such as, do you want me to name some of them?
You don't have to. I'm just curious. I guess we know the big names already, but I didn't know there was that many others.
Well, there's so many different freight carriers. Many people who've been involved in arranging freight for their business may be familiar with some of the names, such as YRC, Conway, Roadrunner, many others. Some of them are regional carriers, such as Southeastern Freight, AA Coopers. They're southern based. In the Northeast, there's New England Motor Freight, actually, which is pretty big from Virginia on up to New England. And I find that when freight is transferring from one region to another, you may find that Lakeville Motor Freight, which is big in Minnesota, will pick up in Minnesota for a shipment to New Jersey and may be transferred to New England Motor Freight there. But they have a partnership. It's an arrangement between carriers because they're regional carriers.
It's like airlines, basically.
Yeah. So in airlines, it's the same thing. If I'm offering air freight services, it's going to probably be the airline that offers the best rates and the best timing from the pickup destination to the consignee or final destination, whether it's domestic or international.
And the airlines that you do, are they the local airlines we know, or are they because there's, for example, cargo airlines, is that specific airlines or specifically cargo airlines you're talking about?
Well, Basile, it is very true that it's a complicated topic, so I'll just skim the surface. Okay. but there are, in fact, passenger airlines such as United Airways and US Air that are carrying cargo for customers like mine, yes.
In the same plane, the passengers
if it's TSA approved.
Oh.
If it's,
do they, just a question, do they have specific cargo? I guess it has to be justified for them to have a specific.
Yeah.
You can't just grab a plane, send it up there, carrying one box or something.
So if it's, if TSA isn't happy with the arrangement, there are planes that carry just cargo.
I'm sure UPS and all have that.
Well, if you're talking about a carrier, you're talking about an integrated carrier. By definition, they own their own planes. But there's only 4 integrated carriers in the world.
What does that mean, integrated carrier?
Integrated means that from the time that the shipment picks up to the time that the shipment delivers, you're with the same name.
Okay.
So that's usually going to be your small parcels carriers, the big names. They do own their own planes. But the advantages and or the reasons why you would negotiate through an air freight forwarder are because the freight's going to be heavier, 200 pounds, you're going to get better rates. The change in where you want to start looking at air freight forwarding versus on airlines versus through an express carrier is about 150 pounds because the rates are going to be better. And that means also arranging a courier from the pickup location to the airport, and then in the final destination, whether it's domestic or international, finding a courier to deliver from the airport and a customs broker, unless the consignee already has a customs broker. So that's the whole chain of command, if you will, for the movement of freight. Now it's a little bit different for ocean freight, but more or less the same. You've got, a sea liner, and you've got agents on both sides, and you've got a lot of documentation, and you've got customs clearance for the customs for the country of import. So it's never a dull moment.
Well, I imagine quite involved. Quite involved. How do you get into that field?
I'm very, very knowledgeable about the transportation field. I'm a very quick learner. At the core, I'm a people person. It's a tough industry.
What do you mean by that?
It's a tough industry. So,
what do you mean by tough industry?
There's a lot of compliance, regulation.
Okay.
There's a lot of customers who've been burnt by carriers or freight forwarders. When I was in elementary school, I aced geography. I've always loved the study of geography and people and cultures, and I think that probably ties into it as well, because I am helping to arrange freight, not just internationally, but also all over the United States. I'm helping businesses.
Okay.
So I have to have pretty good knowledge of where they're located. What closest city are they? What city are they closest to? In Texas or Nebraska or wherever.
Okay.
And so at the core, I'm a people person. I specialize in smaller businesses. I'm a small business owner myself, so I understand all the challenges. And nobody needs to spend $5,000 more than they should on a shipment, for example.
Is that what happened at times if they use the wrong carrier?
Well, I've got a good customer that probably ships with me on average about once a month, and they do a lot of bids for government contracting. They're a small business as well. And Hawaii is about probably 5 to 7 hours earlier than DC. And one afternoon at about 5 o'clock, my customer is calling me because he has this emergency. He needs a shipment to Hawaii, but he needs a quote first. And he says, "You can do an instant quote." And I said, "You need to ship 400 pounds to Hawaii by air?" I said, "We need to check with an airline about this. I know I can get you a good rate for that. But if you go and get an instant quote right now with one of the major carriers, it's going to be between $8,000 and $10,000. And he confirmed that.
What is that instant quote? What does that mean?
You can go, if anybody who has an account with a carrier can go online and log in and run their own quotes. But the next day, I found out that I could do that shipment for them for $4,000, so it would otherwise cost $8,000. That could make the difference between whether or not they win the contract.
Okay, let me just back. I don't want the audience to be confused. Instant quote is what? You go online and then find out how much it will cost to ship this. That's what is instant quote?
Yeah.
Okay. And when they come to you, it's like what? You do research and try to find the lowest rate. Is that what it is? What's the difference? Okay. Gotcha.
It saves a lot of headache, and usually the quotes that I provide to a customer will be through an email so they can see it. But depending on what type of a quote they need, it could take anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days for me to come back with an estimate. Sometimes it can be because of the time zone differences. A customer earlier in the week who was asking about sending an 800-pound shipment to Guam, which is a U.S. territory in the South Pacific. And I said, we talking about ocean or air? Because this is the South Pacific we're going to, and it's going to be expensive. And by the time she got back to me, I found out that probably ocean freight would be best for them because it would significantly reduce the cost for that 800 pounds. But then you've got a time difference, a very significant time difference, which will play into the 48 hours to get a quote, and it's not an instant quote. Because it has to be very tailored to the customer's need, because we have to know what's shipping, we have to know what is the weight and dimensions, is it going by air or sea, and it's much better for them to kind of decide ahead of time what's more important to them, lower cost or faster transit time, because air freight will probably cost 2 or 3 times as much.
Okay. Interesting. Now, how do you compare what you do with the economy? How do you read your action, your activities with the economy? How does that impact the economy?
For the economy? Well, the economy is dependent on the movement of commercial goods. And there are literally thousands of containers being imported from around the world, especially Asia, every day. and from that movement of import,
I mean, the made in China we see all over the place?
Absolutely. But keep in mind, a lot of the businesses that are receiving materials from overseas are also manufacturing here in the United States. There may be some products which end up being 50% manufactured here and 50% manufactured overseas.
Oh, I see.
And so this time of year, you're going to see a big influx of incoming freight also because of the Christmas season. And businesses anticipate that they're going to be selling more. So you're going to have import of toys and import of games and import of shoes, and the list goes on. And so I can be involved in the arrangement of and transportation of these commercial goods for any business. Now, I wouldn't be involved for a consumer or household, really. But a lot of my, some of the customers might be wholesalers who have households that are buying from them. So the end user could be, a household.
Okay.
But a lot of my customers will actually be buying and selling goods from manufacturers and wholesalers in other states. And they could be 100% U.S. made, or they could be 50-50 materials from overseas and 50% materials manufactured here in the States.
Okay. Now, as you know, can you say, is that an increase? How do you read the number? Is that an increase of movement or less movement compared to last year? What do you see in your economy?
It's busy. There's a lot of shipping going on. There's a lot of support for businesses who want to do export. So, I've got some businesses that are involved in, say, solar technology, and we've got to ship it, and the minimum weight on the shipment is 100 pounds. And whether they're going domestic or international, I can help them.
What do you mean by the minimum weight?
Well, usually if they're shipping a solar panel or something like that, that's like going to be the typical shipment that I'm involved in arranging freight for. It's going to be something like that.
So basically, I guess what you're trying to say, if somebody wants to ship a box that's less than 100 pounds, they don't have to come to you.
No.
They go to any regular carrier or post office or whatever. Is that
yeah, I mean, if it's a consumer or household, definitely. Most businesses don't really need assistance with smaller packages.
Gotcha. So basically what they buy from, or they not buy, but they come to you when they need assistance, something is cumbersome, big enough and what have you, they can send it to the post office or whatever, that's where you come in.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a difference in the service that I provide and the difference in what a retail store or the post office provides. But keep in mind that a lot of my customers are businesses dealing with a huge expense when they're moving around goods to and from their loading docks.
But you're dealing with a huge expense.
It's a huge expense, shipping and freight. I mean, even if a business is only paying for 2 shipments a month, it can be $2,000 a month.
Okay.
And if I'm saving them even 25%, I'm saving them $800 a month. And so that's really where I'm more likely to be involved. I mean, a bigger company that's shipping daily is probably going to have an in-house logistics manager.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's really kind of the middle ground, like between the consumers and the really big businesses, where I'm basically working with smaller businesses, you see. But there's still a lot of shipping, and there's a huge need. So they know they can call me whenever they need me. There's no obligation to ship every week. They don't have a shipment every week, my typical customer. So
I see.
But they're usually busier between now and January. And they should probably start preparing now, because if you wait until after December 15th, it's going to be hard to get a shipment on time without paying excessive fees. What happens the last 2 weeks of the year is usually carriers will give you an estimated transit time, 2 days or something like that. Well, during the last 2 weeks of December, just add 2 days to that because it's really busy, with the holiday season.
Okay.
So.
But there's not a lot of people who do what you do.
There actually are a fair number of transportation brokers and freight forwarders. They probably don't network as much as I do, but we're definitely out there. and it's pretty much, for the same reason why you would go to why would you go to a travel agent? Why don't you just go to the airline? Well, the airline's going to charge you $1,000 for an airline ticket that could cost $600 through the travel agent. Plus, the travel agent has a lot of knowledge about where you might be going to visit on vacation. They're going to know what regulations there are, what visas you need. See what I mean? So if you go one-to-one carrier, captive to them, you're not going to get the best price. And also, there can be different rules and requirements for domestic as well, especially for heavier shipping. So you want to go with somebody who kind of knows how to set everything up correctly. I had a pretty large shipment a couple of weeks ago, and they had 10 different pallets that were shipping. And so in order to keep the price down, I booked it with 2 carriers. I know it sounds funny, but it's like you can only make a reservation for so much freight on a truck, without paying excessive fees and things like that. So it's like I tell people why, they say, well, why do I have to go with 2 carriers if I have over 6 pallets or crates? Well, it's kind of like if you go to a restaurant and you have 12 people instead of 4, you want to call ahead so that the restaurant is ready for you. You're taking up a significant amount of space, and you want your shipment to cost the right price. So we've got to work with the system that's there. There's 2 carriers that offer a similar price. I can give you 1 invoice, but 2 bill of ladings.
Okay. Makes sense. I guess that's the technical data that the business person does not have, and that's what you provide to them.
Right. And otherwise they may be told that your shipment is too big, you're going to need a dedicated truck. Well, you don't need to do that. So.
I see. Okay, well, these are the points that you need to advertise then to the people, so that you can get them the exact precise amount of the exact precise correct shipping, without costing them anything, based on the knowledge that you have of the industry and what have you. Right.
A lot of it is just knowledge that I can share with any customer, and a lot of the options are going to depend on where you're shipping to and from. I was helping a woman with a business based in Nova Scotia, Canada, ship to Florida. And she introduced me to her customs broker to make sure that they had information, and vice versa. And they said, so is this shipment going by sea or by air? I said, neither. It's going by land.
Okay.
Because literally, in that case, you have 3 choices. Now, how many places do you have 3 choices? You can go by sea, land, or by air. So. And
then you get the opportunity in that way to check all 3 and let them know what would be the best price.
Yeah, and land
unless they have somebody, as you say, in some company, who have somebody dedicated in logistics, who will then do the homework of checking out and then telling them.
It can take hours of time to research, and also if you're an infrequent shipper, you're going to pay a lot more on your own, and you don't have as much knowledge about the industry. It's like a lot of industries where you just, when you have an advocate to help you work with a carrier. Plus, I have really good relationships with both customers and carriers. So, and that I keep all the communication going, and anybody who works for me is going to have the same philosophy of doing a really good job of taking care of customers. So mainly that's how I position my business then, is as a business-to-business advocate for small businesses who want to make sure they have the best services for the money for their domestic and international freight shipping.
Okay. So basically, to sum it up, somebody want to ship something, and which is over 100 pounds, they come to you and say, I want to ship this over here, and you go and do the homework, the study, to find out what is the best way to get it there within the time period they're looking for.
Right.
And get them the best rate or price they can get it.
Right. And sometimes I will send them 2 options. But I will try to find out as much as possible ahead of time what the customer needs. I mean, most customers who've already been involved in heavy shipping know all the questions. It doesn't matter who they talk to in the freight industry. The questions are quite extensive. And it's just, part of the process is I can usually determine in 15 minutes if I can help you or not.
Okay.
Just an initial conversation to see what it is that you're shipping and where you're shipping to and where you're shipping from. And if that takes 15 minutes, then I can tell you if I can help you or not.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to squeeze a couple of things over here before we end the show.
Sure.
Well, just so you know, we host a monthly breakfast event in Fairfax, and that will be at the Old Town Hall. Generally the third Thursday of the month from 7:30 to 9. We'd love to have you there. We get together with 40 to 50 business people. And also, you should know that we have our next expo coming up on November the 14th. That will be at the Stacy Sherwood Community Center with about 100 exhibitors and 300 to 400 business people. So if you exhibit, you want to go to our website and get some information on it. That is ultbizexpo.com. We have room there for you to join us, but also the breakfast event. Well, thank you very much for coming. I think that you provide valuable information and a much bigger understanding of your industry and what you can bring to the table to all those fellow business people.
I'll see you at the next breakfast.
Definitely. And you can see Jane's website there on the screen, so feel free to contact her and she will happily answer any